Hey, I'm Mark,
And I'm Craig.
and this is Songwriters Tales. And Craig, tonight, another one in our artist series, which you know me, they're my favorite. So
Yep.
let's talk a little bit about Wyatt Espalin.
Wyatt Espalin. Well, Mark, as you know, we met Wyatt at Zach Brown's Camp Southern Ground several years ago while we were riding down there with the veterans. He's been down there, I think he said 4 to 5 years now, and that seems about right. And Wyatt is
Mm.
the real deal. He's from Hiawassee, Georgia, and he is organic. He's bluegrass. He's what would you say, Mark? He's bluegrass,
Alternative folk,
Americana.
bluegrass, Americana, Appalachian
Yeah.
Americana. I don't you
Yeah.
name it,
Yep.
man. He is it. He is the real deal.
Multi-instrumentalist. And he clogs. So
And
let's
he
get into it.
does yeah, let's do it. Hey, it's Mark, and we are back with Songwriters Tales and a very special guest for our artist series, which is my favorite part of the podcast. So, Craig, introduce us to our special guest tonight, and let's get into this.
I'm happy to. Hello, my friend Wyatt. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing wonderful. Good to see you, Craig. Good
Yes,
to meet you,
sir.
Mark.
Good to meet you too, sir.
Wyatt is all the way up in Hiawassee, Georgia, way up there in the mountains. And I have known Wyatt, I'm thinking about 4 or 5 years now. And the way that we came to know each other is over at Zach Brown's Camp Southern Ground. And we write with the veterans there. And Wyatt and I have done some songwriters in the round around the Johns Creek area and things like that. We've done that together with some other songwriters. But Wyatt is a monster songwriter and
Wait, finish that sentence. Don't just say Wyatt's a monster.
just a
and then
monster.
stop.
Wyatt's a monster.
He's a monster songwriter.
I was trying to think where I was at. Yeah, he is. He's a monster songwriter and one of the most organic songwriters and performers that you're going to see. You know, a lot of performers are out there and they're really good, but Wyatt has that certain organic something that you don't learn that. That's just there. So we're going to learn all about you tonight. Actually, I shouldn't say tonight. I should just say right now, because who knows when people are listening. But we'd like to thank you for coming on our show, Wyatt. And
Absolutely.
yeah, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your background.
Well, like you said, I'm in Hiawassee, Georgia. This is my hometown where I was raised. My early childhood. I was born in Los Angeles. My mom and dad met on a Navy ship stationed in Long Beach, and but after my brother was born, a couple years after me, my mom left my dad and moved back to Georgia, and we ended up with her parents in Stockbridge, Georgia.
Wow.
And that's where my mom's parents lived. My mom was raised there, but my grandparents were in the middle of opening and building a campground here in Hiawassee. My granddaddy was in the CCCs right after World War II, and him and his brothers were sent up here to help build Moccasin Creek State Park and Vogel State Park. And he loved the area so much, and he loved the camping so much that he told his brothers that he was going to open up his own campground one day. And the year I was born is the year he started breaking ground on it.
Nice.
And so eventually my brother and I went to live with him and my grandmother, we call her Granny, and Granny and Granddaddy, Tom and Elsie Harvey. They opened Mountain View Campground in Hiawassee, Georgia, about 1977, a couple years after I was born. And we came to live here and got acclimated to the mountains really quick, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And but I was socialized really early on that campground. My granddaddy got me and my brother a fiddle. And not long after we started living up here, we were on a clogging team. So back in the early 80s, mountain clogging and mountain buck dancing was all the rage up here in Appalachia. And there was a lot of clogging teams.
Mm,
And in my hometown is the Georgia Mountain Fairgrounds, which used
right.
to be known as the country music capital of Georgia. We
Mm-hmm.
have about 3,000 seat auditorium called Anderson Music Hall. And I've been playing on that Anderson Music Hall since I was 8 years old and clogging there.
Wow.
We used to have a big clogging convention during the fair. So my brother and I were little child celebrities clogging and playing the fiddle up at all the functions. Every time they
Mm-hmm.
had a benefit or a funeral or something, my brother and I was dressed in the tightest pants you could get a little kid to wear, and we were performing. And so
Clogging at a
everybody,
funeral, man.
well,
God.
hey, it's known to happen. It's been known to happen.
Okay,
My
so
granddaddy wanted the Orange Blossom Special played at his funeral, and I was doing my best to play it through tears.
yeah, I was
Oh
gonna
my gosh,
say
man.
that's not an easy song to play when you're so okay, I gotta ask before you go further, what the heck is Appalachian buck dancing? I know what clogging is. I don't know what Appalachian buck dancing is.
The way I describe it is, you got precision style clogging where, people compete and there's like these nice teams. And then mountain buck dancing is basically the unsophisticated version of something that's also unsophisticated.
Is that the
It's just
guy? Is like the guy I've seen that kind of glides around the stage and he's kind of
so what
half
he's
dancing?
doing, that guy is doing a lot of flat footing and
Okay.
that's pretty precision style what he's doing. That glide,
Yeah.
being able to like move and glide like that, that's more precision style. Mountain buck dancing is like a redneck up there swinging his arms and he knows all the steps, but he don't do them in a nice, pretty way like the judges want you to.
So the
So
buck dancing comes after a few
that's
pints or
yeah, it's got moonshine is
mo-
involved with buck
yeah, I was
dancing.
gonna say that makes sense. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Wyatt. Go ahead,
That's
but
fine. But no, I got acclimated to playing music pretty early on. My granddaddy built a 100-seat music barn on that campground, and pretty soon my brother and I were entertaining the campers on Friday night after the big fish fry, you know,
wow.
and it was a wonderful time. These people would come from all over. My granddaddy would treat them like family, and before you know it, everybody was camping together, and we had this nice little fellowship hall type place that he turned into the music barn. And every Friday and Saturday night, me and my brother was expected to get up there and shake a leg and play the fiddle. My brother hated it, but I loved performing for the crowd, and I loved just the
Mm,
attention that it got. And uh,
mm-hmm.
when you're a little kid, whether you're good or not, they still going to make you think you're very talented.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause we were pretty talented. We were Georgia State champion
Well, I was
clog
gonna say
dance.
you're champions. You're champions,
Yeah,
so you must have
yeah,
been
we were
good.
good. We were good little cloggers, but uh, fiddle not so much. I didn't have any fiddle lessons. My granddad got me a fiddle, but no lessons. But no,
Yeah.
it was a fun time growing up. Uh, Played at school, did all the talent shows. I also played in the band at school, so I learned how to read music early on. Played clarinet and trumpet in band, and I was a really good trumpet player for a long time. When I went to college, I started getting more serious on fiddle and went to college at Berea College in Berea, Kentucky for a year. And then I got homesick, and my grandparents got homesick for me. They didn't want me to be gone that far away. So they moved me to Rome, Georgia at Shorter College, where
Okay.
I changed my major from music to Christian ministries. I worked as a youth minister for about 10 years. And
Okay.
I was going to go to seminary, but I changed my mind on that. Got involved with summer camp ministry, did a lot of music doing that, a lot of um, acoustic. I got really good on acoustic guitar, playing rhythm, started writing my own songs, and eventually I moved to Nashville right out of college. Just went up to Nashville, got me a job at Opryland, USA.
Oh yeah.
The day I started working, or this day I got to Nashville, I went straight to Opryland. That's when they were still running an amusement park. I don't know if you remember, they had Opryland, USA.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
I got a job the next day as a tour guide on a bus Gaylord Entertainment had a bus going around, and I found out where Tammy Wynette lived, and that's all I needed to know.
I'm
Wow.
sold.
Yeah, man.
That's
So
cool.
that was in 1996. I just celebrated the 30th anniversary of me going to Nashville for the first time and getting the job there. And Opryland USA was only open one more year, but during that year that I worked there, I was in a play or musical produced by Ricky Skaggs,
Mm,
and had one of the parts in the play, and there was clogging involved in the play, a lot of folk music. So I got really into bluegrass and folk music. I became obsessed with bluegrass music, and then I was starting to make the kind of music my granddaddy liked and incorporating the fiddle more in my stuff. And so didn't focus on songwriting as much. Started learning them old tunes, and then
mhm.
I got the bug on songwriting. I don't know. I remember the lady, there was a married couple that invited me to live with them in Nashville, and um, she something happened where I had to move out of their house, and I was kind of like gonna have to move back home. I didn't have a place to live, and her manager at the time, because she was trying to be a singer-songwriter and putting her name out there, her manager took a liking to me and invited me to come sleep on her floor at her apartment. She said, "You can stay here for the summer." And that's all I needed. I was only 20 years old at the time, so I didn't care. I didn't care
Mhm.
where I
Yeah.
that's when I didn't care where I slept, you know. Now
Right.
now I'm I'm very picky.
Yeah.
People wanna put me up. I do a lot of house concerts. People want me to stay with them, but if they got a dog or a cat, I'm scared of animals, so I can't stay at your house. But,
Okay.
yeah, I lived with this gal in her, apartment. I slept in the living room, and she used to be a song plugger for Sparrow Records back in the day, and that was a big
Okay.
Christian,
Sure.
uh,
Christian label,
Christian,
yeah.
yeah, and since I was studying to be a youth minister and working with youth, I knew all those musicians that she worked with, and I asked her so many questions, and that's when song plugging in Nashville was a thing. They actually hired people,
Mhm.
songwriters hired people to go and plug their song to big artists, and I don't think they do that much anymore. I
Mm-mm.
think there's really just only 7 songwriters in Nashville that are getting cuts, and
Pretty much.
they've
Pretty
been
much.
plugged.
Yeah.
So, but
They're in the inner circle.
yeah, I'm going way back. I didn't realize I guess I'm talking a lot more about my history than I normally do, but to fast forward a little bit, basically I fell in love with songwriting because her as a song plugger, man, all she talked about was songwriting. And she was
Mhm.
telling me she had all these great CDs in her living room, and I would put one on every day. And that's where I discovered um, Nancy Griffith,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mary Chapin Carpenter.
Mhm.
She loved these women songwriters. And see, I grew up with my granddaddy only listening to Dolly and Emmy Lou, and Patty
Sure.
Loveless was his favorite. That's
Oh,
all.
yeah.
Wow.
He didn't really listen to Johnny Cash or Merle Haggard or none of that. He listened to the women songwriters. He loved Kitty Wells, and
Mhm.
so that's what I was into also. Girl with a guitar, man. And so Mary Chapin Carpenter was like my favorite for the longest time, probably one of my
Yeah.
biggest influences. Then I got turned on to Indigo Girls, you
Mm.
know, and Georgia artist, Indigo Girls. Uh, and I just got into that folk sound. I got into real emotional style songwriting that, women songwriters tend to, be more emotional, more open with their feelings, I guess you would say, than
Sure.
male
Sure.
songwriters. Um, and so I don't know, I gravitated towards that. I've always been very an emotional person anyway, very bold with my emotions. I'm not, grew up in a house where my granddaddy, if he was sad about something, he might shed a tear, and he wasn't ashamed to do that. I didn't see him cry a lot, but
Mhm.
he was not afraid to express himself that way. And my grandmother was a little more subdued, but I really watched my granddaddy and how he dealt with the campers, how he would empathize with things that there was going on in their life, how he would welcome them into the house and the music barn, and he loved music and he loved expressing himself through music, and bringing people together through music. And
Mm.
so I grew up always kind of having that and working with the veterans with you, Craig, writing songs when we go down there once a month to write songs with Warrior Week at Camp Southern Ground. You know, that kind of songwriting lends itself to therapy, basically, like the therapeutic style songwriting. And so I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm already like got a leg up because I've been writing songs like a hairdresser for the last 20 years. You know, I don't hold nothing back if I can help it. And the deeper you can go with emotion in a song, the better, in my opinion. Now, there's not to say I like good feel good songs too that ain't got, you know, you don't have to
Oh,
think about too much. I like that kind of stuff
sure.
too, but I don't write a lot of that. I'd love to be able to,
No,
but
I don't either. Yeah, I don't either. I'm like
okay.
you. I grew up listening to, the stuff everybody did, Bob Seger and the Eagles and everything. But when I started my Nashville journey, I was the same way. I gravitated to the women songwriters and was a huge fan of Gretchen Peters and a huge fan of Matrace Berg.
I
And
just saw Gretchen Peters last week.
did you? Oh, such a
Yeah.
great songwriter. And so I'm like you, man. I dig the more emotional style of songwriting. So I'm right there with you on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Gretchen Peters, great writer.
well, there's a common thread. A little side note: we just had Craig Campbell on the podcast. So there's two Craig Campbells. There's Craig
Okay.
Campbell, the artist, who the
That's
country
who
singer.
I
Then well, right, but
Well, we
then
had
there's
him.
we had him on the show, and then there's his manager, who is also his publicist, and his name is Craig Campbell. You can't make that up. So we haven't dropped Craig Campbell, the publicist. We haven't dropped his podcast yet, but that's coming out. But he's got where he was talking about Gretchen, because Gretchen is one of his clients, so he's working with
Okay.
her. Yeah. So, but there's a common thread, and it's funny that you mentioned the emotions and the healing in music, because we've had so many people on, Wyatt. Otts Kilcher was on one of our first podcasts, who we met out at Camp Southern Ground from the Jules Daddy. He does a lot with veterans. And we were talking about healing and about how music just, it just goes someplace that it's mystical, and it's real, and you can't even explain how it works. And so we that's kind of been a common thread. And it's funny you mentioned the women, because they always give me the women at Camp Southern Ground. I
Well,
don't
I
know why
know.
that is. I don't know why that is, but I've been getting the ladies for several years, which is fine with me. I mean,
I have noticed that, when I first started doing that, I had groups of women a couple of
yeah,
times. I
yeah.
remember talking to Megan about it. I said, I might write better songs with them. I go, but if you want to give me a group of men, I mean, I can try to write something, because I was writing emotional songs early on, and she noticed that, and I think she put me with the women a few times. And then when she put me with the men, damn, they cried more than the women in my group. I was like, okay.
Well, because the cool thing is, because you're connecting with them, and you empathize with
Mm-hmm.
them, your empathy for them, and you're listening to them because you're that kind of person. And I think that's why that works. It's a great combination. But I'll tell you something about the women. It's kind of interesting. The men at Camp Southern Ground, I've noticed the vets down there, they're digging stuff up, and they're not used to digging stuff up. And so it's like a big truckload of stuff coming on out at once.
Yeah,
The ladies are probably constantly,
I got
getting
you.
throwing it out, and digging it out. And they tend to just, they're kind of beyond that point, and they're
Yeah, that's a
just
good
at the,
observation.
well, you've heard the songs, the ladies are like, I'm kicking
Yeah,
this thing in, you know.
the
So
ladies always come out with an anthem, or they
they
want to. They're dancing to their songs.
they do, man.
Yeah.
Get out of their way, dude. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is. I think the men, it's just it's a new thing, and there's a lot to get out. So he's written songs for George Strait, which is I Cross My Heart. He's written songs for Lee Greenwood. He's written songs with Eddie Rabbitt, Every Which Way But Loose. Through the Years with Kenny Rogers. You got to know this guy, Steve Dorff. This man is on our episodes 10 through 13. He's also written theme songs and movies and TV soundtracks, Growing Pains, Clint Eastwood movies. Go check him out, Steve Dorff.